We put some of the posters from the four-note opera that I've collected over the years on the wall to introduce the four-note opera. This one came from Budapest. This one was from Rio de Janeiro, a version in Portuguese. This is Valencia. This is a rather recent version, which was in English, but in Singapore. This is Wales. This is Dublin. These two posters both come from the French production, which was very successful, ran around 2000 to 2005 in French-speaking countries. Here's another version in Valencia, and this is Major Road Theatre, an English company, and this one is from a German Musiktheater. It seems to have been kind of a political interpretation. I don't know exactly how they did it, but they got a prize for the best staging of the year. I said already in the score that my strongest feeling about the staging is that everybody should do it differently. And because every situation is different, and since there's no real plot involved, you can interpret things pretty much however you like. And it's great to have this variety, and that's one reason that it works in many different languages with many different kinds of stage directors. So it's been through a lot of changes since its premiere in New York in 1972, and even though it doesn't need much explanation, it seems like it will be interesting to kind of talk about its history and prepare for the 50th anniversary, which will be in 2022. But I need to let you see and hear some of this opera. So this morning I went to internet, and on Vimeo and YouTube I found, as usual, 4 or 5 different versions in 4 or 5 different languages, and it was interesting to choose some things there, which we're going to put in the credits. Some of these will still be online when you see this illustrated music video, and you can see these things a little bit longer in your own way. But we're going to show you some excerpts of what we found. I want to start with a little some excerpts from Singapore. This was just done a year or 2 ago by a little company, young singers, singing in English. They're all Chinese, but they're singing in English because they're in Singapore.
Every time I sing this opera, I find it most humiliating. Please listen so you will not miss it. I just sing it's a shame. Please listen so you will not miss it. I am called the contralto, but of course I'm really a mezzo. It's a shame. Please come to this opera so you will not miss it.
I want to show you a little bit of a version that came from 2019 in San Sebastian as a sort of celebration for my 80th birthday. It was done there for the first time in the Basque language. It's too bad that they didn't continue in little performances in Basque villages where no one has ever heard any opera in any language, but it was already a big success in San Sebastian, as you can hear. They show you their version of the first chorus, which they do with the stopwatch, so that you can be sure that the second chorus is somewhat shorter and the third chorus will be somewhat longer. One of the moments in the opera that people always appreciate is the woodblock aria, in which the baritone explains, "You will hear the knock of a woodblock. It's just a detail, but I don't want you to miss it." So he keeps pointing it out to us. Do not miss it. Do not miss the moment when the woodblock happens. And this is a nice challenge for the stage director, because there are so many ways that the woodblock might appear from somebody's pocket, or suspended, coming down from the ceiling, or coming out from behind a curtain, or whatever. Anyway, this version that we're going to hear is done by students in the United States, and they have a very simple solution, but it's kind of amusing, and I want you to see this.
Please listen so you will not miss it. Nowhere else in the entire score will you hear this little instrument. Please listen so you will not miss it. 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 I hope you did not miss it. It was a minor event, and you could easily have missed it. And that is why I wanted to point it out to you, so you would not miss it. So you would not miss it. It was a minor event, and you could easily have missed it. And that is why I wanted to point it out to you, so you would not miss it. So you would not miss it.
So that's a good example of how the four-note opera can work in conservatories with young singers, and it's been done very often, especially in opera workshops in the United States. I want to show you another that came from Cluj in Romania. I'm not sure that I really like this interpretation, but it's interesting. They kind of seem to think that this is the point of the four-note opera is to make fun of other operas, and they're kind of playing it that way. See what you think. People think that minimal music with only a few notes must be very simple, but actually those choruses on only 4 notes are full of fourths and fifths that are very difficult to sing in tune for 4 singers, especially if they're not standing right together. it's really quite difficult. But they do pretty well in Cluj. This next excerpt, devoted to the quartet, was directed by pianist Eric Steinman, who had accompanied the original 1972 production. Now he's doing it 10 years later with his students, one of which is the tenor Grayson Hurst, who was to have a professional career in much more important roles in the subsequent years. The technical quality isn't very good, but the performers understand the music very well, and Grayson Hurst is very amusing as he wanders around trying to find his place in the score. The others are mostly only interested in singing their own themes, and occasionally the tenor, who is generally not very well treated in this opera, complains, "But the tenor hardly has a thing." In this interpretation from Korea, we hear the first aria, sung by the mezzo, in which she simply says she's very happy when it is her turn to sing her aria because she loves to sing ah, 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 ah. But then the soprano joins her in the imitation duet. The soprano is not very happy because she must simply imitate everything the mezzo sings. She refuses, however, to imitate the gestures of the mezzo and won't even look at her. Afterwards, they must introduce the baritone aria, but they take a long time to do so, repeating a lot, which amuses the audience. neglected tenor does have one good aria, however. If you don't understand Korean, he's just talking about how sad it is that the composer doesn't give him a chance to sing his high C, but that he is going to sing his best anyway, and he gets a nice applause, though not as much as in the Variations duet with the soprano just afterwards. This interpretation from the Conservatory of Vicenza gives us a very energetic version of the baritone's concentration aria. He shows you very well how nervous he is about counting the piano chords and coming in just right, but then he points out that he must also sing his very best at the same time, and does so quite honorably.
In tutta l'aria e dopo l'aria posso andar dietro le quinte per rilassarmi mentre aspetto Aria.
Let's move to a professional production from Naples. Here they begin with the piano interlude, taking their positions for the third chorus, and then they move to their positions for the final scene, which ends the opera. After an hour of being discontent with the composer and following the score only because they like to sing, they now are obliged to follow a part of the score that they don't like at all, which tells them they have to sing this long final scene without moving. The whole piece has made reference to Pirandello, a sort of four characters in search of a composer, but now they are really the victims of the composer they have been looking for. Final scenes are always a bit sad when we go to the theater, because the show is over, as our lives will be someday. They say that the scene is very long, but performer freedom is still possible, and they cut a lot, making it more to their liking. So the conflict between singers and composer is still not completely resolved.
There are three voices in this opera. This is the third one. The first one was very much like this one, but somewhat shorter. The second one was very
take our positions for the final scene.
I must remain here for the rest of the opera. I must hold this position.
I must remain here.
No one is allowed to move.
I must remain here for the entire final scene.